Vidhu sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then after a
Uh,
long, yeah,
yes, after a long time, we
a long
are
time we are
able to
meeting.
see
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah,
So, first of all, I would like to introduce about our participants. Okay.
okay.
There are 35 participants,
Mhm.
and majority, all of them are from economics, commerce, and management. Okay.
Okay.
And majority of them have their PhD degree. Approximately 10 participants, those who are without PhD degree.
Okay.
And they are from all over the India. They're representing 14 states of the India.
14.
Okay,
Very good.
14.
Okay.
1 4. One more thing, they are not allowed to make their audio and video on. But if they have any question, they can put it in question answer box. Okay, as well as in chat box.
Hmm.
And last part of the session, we will take that question answer.
Hmm.
Today, unfortunately, we are facing here power failure.
Okay.
So I joined right now through my mobile only. Okay.
Hmm.
So, dear participants, without wasting time, we are starting this session. So, first of all, I would like to introduce our resource person, Professor Salim Shah. He is from Department of Economics, Tripura University. And Professor Shah has approximately 20 years of teaching experience. And he is a prominent member of Economic Society of India, Northeast as well as in Tripura. He completed 3 projects. Till now, he has awarded, under his guidance, 10 research scholar awarded PhD degree. He published 2 books and more than 30 papers in reputed journals. With this, I'm handing over to the session to the Professor Shah. Now, sir, time is yours. You take up it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Vidhu sir. Vidhu sir is a very good friend of mine, a brother and my friend. And we are having our
Yes, I
yeah,
just forgot to mention we were
yeah,
colleague in Tripura University in 2006 to 2008.
exactly. And we are
And
having a
we are missing that time a lot. Okay.
and we are having a relation of more than 20 years. So it's a very long
Yes.
relation. Okay. So it's very nice to meet you, Vidhu sir, again. And as you told that 35 participants are there and they are from various states of India, particularly 14 states. And most of them are PhD holders and they are from the subjects of economics, management and commerce. So more or less same discipline we are having, and we have some idea regarding the finances and all these things. But the topic, dear participants, a very good morning to all of, a very good afternoon to all of you. And this is my pleasure that though it's virtual, but we are meeting and I could share my ideas regarding the investigating the health of state finances, which is a very interesting topic. And I could present my ideas before you and the Mizoram University, this training with the Mizoram University, the center has given me the opportunity. So I'm grateful to the authorities of Mizoram University for giving me the opportunity, definitely. And as you know, we should go straight to the topic. And today's topic is investigating the health of state finances. And who are from MBA, you rigorously deal with the finances and all these things, but this is mostly of business finance, entrepreneurship finance, but but not that much of state finances. Who are from commerce, they also deal with the this chart and all these things. They also go by their accounting, finance, and all these things. But those are with some different orientation. But with the student of economics, we go by dealing with the state finances. So that's why I think the topic would be interesting to you, and I will try to make the stuff as simple as possible, as this is online, first of all. And second, all of us are not from the hardcore background of economics. So definitely I should go by a dilute version of the state finances. Okay. So that we can understand that just like our own family economy, just like the management of our own finances or management of the finances of an entrepreneurship or business entity, or just dealing with accounts and finance in commerce, then similarly in case of economics and in case of this our discipline, how we can go for management of the finance of the state. But and you know, there are different techniques, there are different methods, and there are different tidbits in managing the state finances. First of all, let's go by the term state finances. And what is that? State finances, simply this is how much the state is earning, that is revenue of the state, or this is management of the revenue of the state, that is total receipts. And then the state is going for different kinds of expenditure. The expenditure may be developmental, that may be non-developmental, that may be committed kind of expenditure, that may not be with that much of committed expenditure, but different kinds of expenditures are there. So we must have our revenue sources as a state. The state like a family or state like an individual entity, the state must have their own sources of revenues. And these revenue sources are a bit complicated whenever we are entering into a federal or quasi-federal federal government structure like the India. Here we are having a very federal structure. Politically, it may be quasi-federal, but financially it is totally fully a federal structure. And whenever we are entering into the federal structure, then definitely, whenever we are entering into a federal structure, then the federal structure that would have a definite norms, regulations, and some authorities are there, starting from the finance commission to the state ministry to the finance ministry of the government of central government. So different entities are there, different bodies are there which deal with this. So it's a very vast experience and it's a very vast management system, because it's not only managing the state itself, but keeping parity with the other states as well as making a liaison and going by the norms and regulations of the central government and all these things. So we are dealing with a federal structure. So that's you should keep in mind. And the second thing, then we might have the sources of our own. We might have the sources from the central government. We might have some non-governmental sources, as well as we can run our own institute, own entity, own business platform as a state, and we can have the revenues. So different revenue sources are there, and our basic target, just like the family economy, just like the economy of an individual family, it's also how to go for increasing our revenue base. I mean, the revenue base that's to be enhanced, that's to be increased, that to be widened. So widening the revenue base, this is the one target. And the second target is whenever we go for managing the fund, I mean the expenditure of the fund, then expenditure, savings is also a part of expenditure. So whether the state is able to generate surplus or not, that is also a question. And side by side, the basic question is, whenever we are going for expenditure, then how far the expenditure pattern is judicious. I mean, just like a family or an individual, if we go for spending extravagantly, say we are going for spending roughly here and there without any applying our thought and minds, then definitely the health of our own finance would be very risky, would be in a very risky position. Similarly, for the state also, if the state cannot go for a very judicious kind of expenditure, then if the expenditure is not proper, and if unplanned expenditures are there for the state, then the state would be in real trouble in the long term. So two questions are there. Whenever we are dealing with the state finances, then let me tell you very clearly that two questions will be there. One question is the current period or the current health of the state finances. Another is the long-term health of the state finances. So this is the question of the present status in terms of the state finances. I mean, how we are dealing with the finances of the states, the state finances. So one is the present status. Second is the long-term sustainability, I mean long-term health. So we are going by the present time development of the state finances as well, and the development of the state, as well as we are going by the long-term sustainable development of the states. So look, we are going through a cross-section analysis, and as a student of the economic sciences, taking management, commerce, economics together, we used to call it economic sciences. That's why in the Swiss Nobel Prize, this is termed as Nobel Prize for economic sciences, right? So all these three subjects belong to economic sciences. And being the faculty member, being the student of the economic sciences, we must understand that whenever we are going for analyzing this type of state financial position, then this position can be interpreted, can be explained, can be taken into two mode. One is the current mode, another is the future mode. Whenever we are dealing with the current mode, this is nothing but this is the present status of the economy and present status of the health of the state finances. So this is a cross-section study. Because look, I'm giving you the practical. We must enter into the theory, and not even theory. I will go by very scattered, because I am dealing with the basic things of the state finances. So what are the basic components are there in state finances, and what components is meaning what, and what are the types and all these things, what are the pattern of state finances, we will go by. So when we are going by this, then we must go by a current period analysis. And current period analysis, this is nothing but this is how Mizoram is better off in comparison to Tripura, or how Tripura is in a particular year, how Tripura is in a better situation, how Tripura is in a better situation in comparison to Assam or Manipur. Okay, in that way, or how Bihar is now, how Bihar is in a back in comparison to Maharashtra. Those are the basic things whenever we are going by the state level analysis, the current period analysis. Or in case of the current period analysis, then what is the total revenue position of the state, of a particular state? What is the total expenditure position of a particular state? And how the expenditure has been patterned into, how the expenditures have been divided into developmental, non-developmental, committed, non-committed, and all this. So that is the current period analysis. Either you are comparing between two states or many states, or you are investigating the health of your own state or the state concerned in terms of the different parameters, different indicators. So that's the current period. Now, whenever we are approaching the long run, then in the long run, now say for Bihar. Now, this is the position of Bihar for today. Then where we would like to see Bihar after 10 years, after 15 years. So after 15 years, where Bihar will be, or say 15 years back in 2014, in 2011, or in 2009, Bihar was in that position. Now whether Bihar has upgraded or Bihar has not upgraded. So what is the position of Bihar by this 15 years, by this 1.5 decades? That is also our pattern of analysis. That is also our interest of analysis. So whenever we are dealing with state finances, you will just remember, my friends, that we will go by the current period analysis, as well as we will go by the long term.
Just I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
I'm interrupting, Salim sir.
Okay.
Your slides are not moving.
Yeah, definitely. I will. That will move. That will move definitely.
Okay.
And what are they? The screen is not working, sir. Slide will not. Okay. No, I didn't start changing the slide till now, Vidhu sir. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Suddenly I seen, so I thought that it may not be.
No. This is just the prelude, because many may not be acquainted with the state finances. That's why how we will proceed. I'm giving the prelude to the friends. Okay. After that, we will move.
Okay. Thank you.
Now look at the topic: investigating the health of state finances. We are going by analyzing the state finances, finance of the one particular state, or finance of the different states across the different, or finance of one particular states over the time period. Now, what is the health of the state finances? Health means there are certain parameters, like whenever we are going by our own health, physical health, we are going by our blood pressure, we are going by our sugar level, we are going by the creatinine level, we are going by this and that. So different indicators are there to judge my own health. Similarly, whenever we are going by test the health of a state economy, or health of a state finance, then different indicators, different parameters we have to be developed. We have to develop. This is one thing. And investigating the health of state finance, that is, we are interested in investigating the position of state finances of a particular state or in a comparison mode among the different states, or over the longitudinal, over the intertemporal analysis, whatever, then we are investigating the health in terms of certain parameters, certain indicators, and certain indexes, certain indices. That is the basic thing for today's analysis. Now there are certain contents, and I have given the contents at the first slide, introductory slide. So first of all, already I have explained what is the meaning and components of state finances. This is the meaning and components. Second, we will go by the state of health finances, health of state finances, how to investigate the health, how to indicate the health. Then then we will deal with the fiscal sustainability issues. We will go by the health of state finances, what would be the parameters. Then we will go by the state revenue generation capacity and all this. We will go by the expenditure management pattern and the tidbits and instruments. We will go by the debt management and debt sustainability. Because if debt is not sustainable, then bankruptcy will be there, and the state will be in a very huge pressure of the internal debt or external debt, whatever. So debt management and its sustainability, that is the basic issue. Then we will go by deficit financing, because this is a big instrument for state finances. And finally, as we are in a federal structure, particularly whenever the financial matter is involved, we are in a federal structure under the Article 280 of the Indian Constitution, you know, because our Finance Commission that belong to Article 280 of the Indian Constitution, right? So we are guided by the Indian Constitution under Article 280, and that's why the federal system must be taken into consider, and we will go by the analyzing the fiscal federalism or the federal structure of the fiscal finances and all these things. So these are the topic of analysis today. Now let's move. Okay. Then first coming to state finances. Already I have explained before you what is state finances, why state finances, revenue, all this, and all revenue expenditure, all this. So just look at the key components. Two basic components are there for state finances. The first component is revenue sources, because without revenue, we cannot go for expenses. And now, whenever we are going by the revenue sources, tax can be the major source, as you know. Taxes can be the major source, and in case of tax, there can be GST of different forms, because this is a IGST is there, SGST is there, and CGST is there. CGST will go to the central government, I mean central, then goods and services tax, service taxes, that will go to the central government. State GST is there, that will come to the state government, and IGST is there, that is integrated component of the GST, which will be divided into the state and between the state and the centers. Okay, between the center and the states. Okay. Besides, there are excise duties, and the country can go for collecting the excise duty. Sometimes states can go for collecting the excise duty, and certain areas are there, you know, the different Abgari department is there, some other departments are there where we go by the excise duties. And the property tax, and most of the property tax, particularly if it is a land tax, then land and property tax, that belongs to the state government, you know well. The state government can go for the SGST, SGST. State government can have a part of the IGST. Then state government can go for collecting through excise duty, different kind of excise duties, and then the property tax and other non-taxes elements are there. Say any kind of surcharge, any kind of fine. Say it may be owing to our helmet, it may be owing to the rash driving of the motorbike or whatever. Then different penalties are there. Those penalties will be under the non-tax component. So our tax components are there. For revenues, non-tax components are there, and non-tax among the non-tax component, say surcharge, different kind of fines, penalties, those will come in non-tax components. And grants in aid is there. Normally, we used to have some grants from the central government, or that grant can come from the ADB, I mean Asian Development Bank. That grant can come from some other World Bank, or somewhere that we may have the grants. And also the states are also having some grants directly from the international organization. So grants in aid, either from the central government or from the international organization, so that is there. And if by all the sources, taxes, tax sources, non-tax sources, excise duty, then the property taxes, and taking all the grants in aid, taking all them together, even we are not in a position to have to manage our expenses, then we have to go for borrowing. So different sources of borrowings are there. Some are in soft interest, some are in very hard interest, but we are having some subsidized amount. So different sources of borrowings are there. So borrowings are there, grants in rates are there, different tax components are there, and different non-tax components are there for the revenues of the state as well as the revenue of the central government. So these are the revenue sources. Now going to the expenditure areas, then what are the expenditure? Mostly we have to go by our developmental expenditure. Say educational expenditure on educational venture, expenditure on health management, hospital management of the hospital education system, health education system, or research and development, or starting of the research and development institute. All these are under the developmental expenditure. This thing, except the employee part, that I will come, because in case of the employee part, whenever say giving the salary to the government employee, this is a committed expenditure and this is non-developmental expenditure. But whenever we are going for establishing a new school building or new hospital, or going for establishing or starting one research and development center, that is under the development part. Okay. Similarly, different kinds of infrastructure, and the government has to go for building the infrastructure, what in economics and commerce and management we used to call them social capital, right? So social capital or social overheads. So social capital is there or social overhead is there. So different kind of infrastructure. Infrastructure can be physical infrastructure. Infrastructure can be social infrastructure. Two kinds of infrastructure. Physical infrastructure means road, canals, bridge, any electric project, and whatever the research and development institute, the school, college, and all this physical part. These are under physical infrastructure. But there is also a component which is called social infrastructure. And you might be knowing, say, me belong to the social infrastructure. You people being faculty members of different organizations, different university, colleges, you also belong to the social infrastructure, social capital, because this is not a visible kind of capital, but the country has spent on me. That's why our country has spent on you. That's why me and you, we are at this position right now, and we can deliver for the society. Being human being, as we are, but many people are there, many other human beings are there who are not able to deliver to our extent, or some other people are there who are very good scientists and they are in a position to deliver even much more than us. So different things are there. We are at a middle tier, say. So take our example. So we have started our schooling, colleges, and all this from the childhood. We now reach to this particular position. And this particular position where we reach now, this is actually owing to the investment of our family and huge investment from the part of the government, for both state government and central government. If this investment were not made, then definitely we could not be the present in the present position. So social infrastructure or social capital, or any kind of this who are doing with their brain and all this, I mean the human capital, and the physical infrastructure, and both are required for the development. Both physical computer is required and teacher is also required. Computer is required and scientist is required. So those are part of the social capital or social overhead. Then different public welfare schemes are there. Any kind of old age pension, any kind of old age pension, then child maintenance, or say maintenance of the deserted women. These are the public welfare schemes. Besides that, there may be thousands of public welfare schemes from the part of the government. When a state government is giving, say, bicycle to the students of class 9, 10, this is also a public welfare scheme. Or free laptop, free notepad to the students. This is also under the public welfare scheme. So expenditure areas are varied, different. Some expenditures come under, these are developmental parts, some are non-developmental. Then some are committed, some are non-committed. Committed means you have to go by salary, every month you have to pay. So this is a committed. Development, establishing a school, even that can be kept in halt for some time, or you may start a school or a particular road after 2 years of the proposal. So that is a non-committed kind of expenditure. Developmental expenditure are mostly not non-committed kind of expenditure. And this salary component and all these are the committed kind of expenditure. You have to maintain it. Okay. And some public welfare schemes are there. Then now under this particular two areas, the revenue sources and the expenditure areas, where the finance commission comes. Yeah, that's the question. Where the finance commission that comes. Finance commission comes under, look, under the Article 280, as I told you earlier, of the Indian Constitution, and Article 280 of the Indian Constitution has given certainty to go for renewing or establishing a new finance commission every 5 years. And the term of a particular finance commission will be for 5 years. After 5 years, another commission will be constituted, and that will run for 5 years. And every finance commission under Article 280 and its sub-clauses, the power that has been deliberated, the power which has been deliberated to the finance commission, then they will go for different kind of allocation. Allocation means, say, the total revenue, whatever be collected by the state government, that is there. But a larger pool and most of the part of the revenues, those are going to the central government. Because state governments also giving certain taxes, certain collections, certain excess duties to the central government. Central government also imposing, so larger pool is going to the central government. And after having this collective pool, whatever the amount, that a part of that, larger part of that must be distributed or allocated by the central government to the state government. Then there must be certain regulations, there must be certain norms, certain rules and certain formula in allocating or distributing or devaluating. This is a kind of devaluation. So a devaluation formula, the formula is called devaluation formula. A devaluation formula must be there, following which different finance commission would go for allocating or distributing the funds among the different state governments. Now, the formulas are not a ironclad kind of thing. I mean, a fixed structure is not there. Every individual commission has their own right to go for certain changes in the thing. That's why I say, starting from starting from the very beginning, say after our independence, starting from 1951-52 till date, different finance commission, they were going by, following the 1971 population base. But the 14th finance commission has gone for the population base of 2011. Right? Certain changes they brought. Or sometimes, say, components are there. Forest can be, how much forest area one particular state is maintaining. On the basis of that, on the basis of the forest area, they might be incentivized. So some incentives may be given to a particular state on the basis of the forest maintenance and eco-friendly nature of the state government. So this kind of criteria there. So these criteria are actually not very, there some flexibility is there in the structure. And individual finance commission go by that flexibility within the ambit of the Article 280 of the Indian Constitution and its sub-clauses. Right, and determines the distribution of tax revenue between the union and the states. How much of this particular revenue that will go to the central government, then how much would be distributed among the various states in what proportion and what would be the criteria for deciding that, and those will be, and for 5 years, definitely. And recommendations of the Finance Commission measures to address the vertical as well as horizontal imbalances. And remember, whenever the Finance Commission is working, they are going by two kind of imbalances. And you must be knowing that the one is the vertical imbalance, another is the horizontal imbalance. What's vertical imbalance? Just like the cross section and intertemporal, here also, vertical imbalance means this is addressing the disparity in between the union and state. It's a federal structure. So far as the financial matter is involved and Article 280 is involved, so our India is a federal structure. In this federal structure, definitely in this federal structure, then the state would not be given much. Similarly, central would not have even the larger portion, because states are many in numbers, and center is looking after all over the country, and this country is a very big one. It's a very big country. That's why whenever India is going for the government of India, they are going for managing the developmental pattern, then the committed expenditure, all these things, and day-to-day expenses of the government, day-to-day expenses for the country, and all these things. Then they need money. But if there is an imbalance between the center and state, then the balanced development of the country, I mean, what is called the prudential development of the country, then that will be in a halt and that will come into hamper. That's why a balance must be maintained in terms of distribution of the total tax proceeds or total revenue proceeds in between the center and the state government in accordance with their need and in accordance with their extent of their visibility and their burden. So this is called vertical. This is called vertical imbalances. So we have to mitigate the vertical imbalances and we have to bring balance in between the union and the states. So this is one thing. Similarly, say Maharashtra is industrial developed. Rajasthan is not that much developed. West Bengal once upon a time was developed, but nowadays West Bengal is not industrially that much developed. Other development might be there. All the northeastern states are industrially backward. Then the only one formula, the same parameter or distribution formula cannot be applied to each and every state. Or if we are going to apply the same formula, then certain flexibility, certain advantages, certain subcomponents will be there. So that the northeastern states should get some special benefit. Similarly, the state of Uttarakhand might be having some special advantages. Or earlier, the state of Jammu Kashmir was having some advantages. The Adidi then Jammu Kashmir. Now it's Indian territories. Okay. And considering that, and to remove the horizontal imbalances, I'm giving you only one example because on one slide we should not take much time. Then considering the case of imbalances on this thing between one state to another state, then there has been a nomenclature in the 79 of that finance commission. Say it was probably 8th or 9th finance commission. They have gone for the special categorization of the states, and 11 states of India have been marked into special category states. All the 8 northeastern states were there. All the 8 northeastern states, and 3 other states. This is Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and Jammu and Kashmir. Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, then Jammu and Kashmir. These 3, along with the 8 northeastern states, altogether 11 states have been categorized into special category states. Got it? So it's a special category. That means in terms of financial devolution, I mean in terms of financial distribution, then they will be given, in terms of financial distribution, they will be given certain priorities considering their economic backwardness, their hilly topography, larger amount of tribal population, as well as their economic backwardness. So this is hilly, they are having a hilly terrain, they are having low capacity of infrastructure, they are industrially backward, and they are having certain other limitations and economic backwardness. Considering this, then during at the end of 70s and starting of 80s, then 2 to 3 states have been given the special category status. And by 2002 and 2003, before 2004-5, the 11 states have been designated or categorized as special category states. All the 8 northeastern states and Himachal Pradesh, then Jammu and Kashmir, and the Uttarakhand have been given the special status. So look, why this is? To remove or to reduce the horizontal imbalances in our financial status or our state finances. Horizontal imbalances in our state finances. Horizontal means interstate disparity. So our target is to remove the vertical disparity, union state disparity. Our target is to remove the horizontal disparity and bringing a equal platform for the development of the different Indian federal state, so that there won't be much economic imbalances among the states and between the center and the states. So these are the basic motivation of the state finances. And objective is what? As I told, equity and all these things. Okay. Now, whenever we are talking about the health of state finances, then how to go for a better health? I will definitely come to the indicators. What are the various indicators are there, but how to go for actually making the health better? Somehow, we have to go for increasing our revenue base. Our revenue, enhancing the revenue generation capacity, that is the first and foremost. There is a blaming to the northeastern states, to us, that after so many more than 7 decades of independence, still the northeastern states are very poor in their own revenue collection. Their tax collections are poor, their other collections are poor, non-tax collection poor, and their tax buoyancy is very poor. Tax buoyancy means in relation to my own GSDP, gross state domestic product, how much taxes I'm collecting in terms of percentage in relation to my state GSDP. Okay, I mean gross state domestic product. And our tax buoyancy is very, very low for the north. I mean, other states are there whose tax buoyancy is low, but Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka, they are having very high tax buoyancy. And Gujarat, they are collecting a huge revenue. Their revenue generation capacity is much higher than the revenue generation capacity of northeastern states and the Bihar and Rajasthan and the Uttar Pradesh. Okay. So this is the basic formula. We must, for making our health better off, we must go by enhancing our revenue generation capacity. And as a student of economics, management, and commerce, being the student of or being the faculty members of economic sciences, whenever we go for this kind of planning and all this, we must give inputs to our own state government how to go for enhancing the revenue generation capacity. So this is one thing. And how growth in GST collections and better compliance of mechanisms. How to go for better GST collection. Which are the particular areas where we can go for certain non-taxes, imposition of certain non-taxes collection. Whether our revenue can be enhanced through certain penalties and fines and those which can save the life of the people, which can save the environment, as also through tax or through certain penalties and surcharges, we can even take care of our financial health as well as we can take care of our environmental health. We can take care of the health of the human being. Say, whenever earlier, if you wear a helmet or if you don't wear a helmet, then no penalty were there. Nowadays, in each and every state, the penalty is 1,000. This 1,000 penalty, this is helping the revenue generation capacity of the state, but this is not the sole motivation. That should not be. Second motivation is even more important because this is saving the life of the people. So lives of the people is more important. So whenever we are saving in terms of a penalty for not wearing helmet, this is saving thousands of lives, young lives, and at the same time they are our human resource actually. So saving the life of the human resources and giving some financial sources to the state government. So that's not a bad thing. So this is having a two-pronged impact. So that's why this type of solution, this type of suggestions, this type of inputs we being academician, we must give to our state governments and the respective local governments. Okay, because our government structure is a three-tier government structure. States are there, districts are there, and the local level panchayats are there, local level governments are there. So it's a three-tier government system, and all the local governments and state government must be given the certain inputs by the people who are knowing this state finances. Okay. And effective mobilization of non-tax revenues, use of surcharge, royalty, penalty, and all fines and all these things. Then improved expenditure efficiency. I mean expenditure quality. Expenditure efficiency is actually expenditure quality. How? Because bad kind of expenditure and good expenditures. Bad expenditures are bad for the society, bad for the environment, bad for everything. Good expenditures are actually healthy practice for the society and for the states. So good focus on capital expenditure for infrastructure and growth. So instead of having larger amount of, so there must have a balance. I'm not against more employment, but whether you are targeting your employment for the long run or for the short run, the particular government, state government, which is actually looking for the short run employment, then they are going by actually overhead larger amount of public employment in different organizations. Maybe employment quality may not be good, but they are giving say fixed salary or whatever or contractual employee, but they are going by the number. But this number is important, but this is important for the short term. But if you think for the long term, then go for capital expenditure. What's capital expenditure? Say R&D, research and development expenditure is a capital expenditure. Highway connectivity development is a revenue expenditure. Electric power project is a capital expenditure. Establishing a quality university is a capital expenditure. Going by the big public hospitals, that can be capital expenditure. So capital expenditure are actually quality expenditure. This whenever you are going for capital expenditure, again you are having a multi-pronged benefit. First benefit is then for construction of a dam, construction of a power plant, or construction of a university or whatever, then different workers are hired. So we are going by employment generation for the short term. But for the long term, this kind of capital will come into enhancing our productive capacity of the economy. Because the research and development will lead to magnificent and sea change into the development process. Say one university can produce thousands of scientists. So in the long run, or one bridge, one power plant that can changes the industrial landscape of a particular area. So whenever we are going for the capital expenditure more, then short term we are getting limited benefit. But for the long term, we must get huge long-term benefit in terms of productivity, in terms of employment generation, and in terms of prudential development of the particular state. That's why we must be going by the capital expenditure. And this is a quality expenditure. Rationalization of subsidies and targeted welfare scheme. Definitely, old age pension is a very good scheme. Okay, but different schemes are there. And nowadays, being a student of economic sciences, we must be knowing that there is a term, this term is called freebies. Freebies. Freebies, that means different non-capital expenditure and non-useful expenditure done by the government to make the government popular. And different states are doing that. And in different names, in the local names. So I'm not saying that this is bad. But look, this kind of benefits, fringe benefits, which are actually given by the government to larger section of people, the benefit is how much? 500, 1000. Then monthly 5,100 benefit, 1000 benefit. And people are very happy. At least government is giving us some money. But being academician, we cannot be very happy. Because this is actually a popularization, making the government popular. So this is a technique that may be a popular kind of technique taken by the government. But whenever a family is getting 500 or 1000 max to max, then that family might have some financial benefit. But what about their capacity building? One university can help in capacity building of the poor, even the poorest of the poor. Yeah.
नहीं कोई बात नहीं, मैं आगे निकलूंगा.
What? Hello?
Nothing. It some other discussion, okay?
Okay.
Hello, please.
Oh, sure. Then, so freebies easily can be converted or transformed into capital expenditure, right? So crores of people are there, 500 into 3 crores family, then 3 crores into 500 is a huge amount. And that amount is going only for giving some short-term relief to the families. Instead of giving the short-term relief, if the capital expenditure, this huge amount, 300 crore multiplied by 500 or 300 crore multiplied by 1000, that can be spent for our capital expenditure and long-run development purposes with quality infrastructure and instrumentation of the economy. So automatically that will bring some positive changes. So debt management improvements, because whenever we have debt is a part and parcel, as deficit financing is a part of parcel of the central government. Similarly, debt is a part and parcel of the state government. Each and every state government must be going by the debt, because debt is not a very bad thing if debt is utilized for productive purposes. Now we are just going just like a family. Yeah, we are borrowing from others, and only we are borrowing for the marriage of our daughter or marriage of our sister. So that borrowing is not a productive borrowing. But if we borrow and we invest for productive purposes, for agriculture purposes, for cropping and all this, so that's a productive borrowing. So whatever the state government is also borrowing, or the central government, that borrowing must be spent, or the expenditure must be channelized into a very productive purposes. So then debt is not a bad thing. But what's happening? So during 1970s, 1980s, 2000, then there was having huge borrowing burden, debt burden for each and every state government. Even the central government was having also huge debt burden. And international debt was magnificent upon the central government. Then the question came, we should go for controlling the debt of individual state and the center. Debt management, debt control and utilization control of the total extent of debt, and manage and the utilization of the particular debt into a very productive purpose. These two together called the debt management. So debt management is a crucial part for the state government and for the central government. That's why in 2004-05, the central government brought this FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. So Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act, and certain mandate has been imposed on the state government and as well as on the central government. You cannot go deficit financing more than 3 or 4%, more than 3% of your total GSDP. For the central government also, more than 3% of the GDP is not allowed. Or whenever you are going for borrowing, your borrowing cannot exceed 30% of your GSDP. Because out of 100 of your total revenue, only 30% can be the component from debt. Because look, you are going for your borrowing, you have to repay the borrowing. If you cannot repay the borrowing for a longer term, then you have to go for paying the interest rate, and this pooled interest rate can be a huge amount, and that can put on burden on the state economy. So debt management is a very, very crucial part of the state finances. And intergovernmental transfer, that is also how much, and this is that particular responsibility of the intergovernmental transfer that lies with the Finance Commission, and that's why Finance Commission must have some favorable decision, particularly in favor of the poor state, backward state, industrially backward state, or the state which having some natural calamity or something like that. Then there is a role of the Finance Commission to go for judicious and prudent devolution of funds, and that may help in our progressive development in future. So that's why this is intergovernmental transfer. And increase and also as well as say increase grants for health, education and rural development, that may help tremendously, that may help magnificently for the development of the state economy. And all this together, if we go by our enhanced revenue generation capacity, quality management of our expenditure, then debt management in a prudential manner, and the intergovernment transfer flow is very good, then definitely all these together will lead to the prudential development of the state. And look, friend, we are actually looking for the prudential development. Okay. Now, how to go for the fiscal management and sustainability? Look, as and when I'm telling sustainability, then we are talking about the long-term development, not the short-term. Management is a short-term criteria. Sustainability is a long-term criteria. And what kind of sustainability? Say, balanced budget is a sustainability. Debt sustainability is a sustainability. And growth-oriented spending. Each and every economy should go by the growth-oriented spending. Spending must be very, very development-oriented. As I told, that capital expenditure must be higher than the other kind of expenditure. Right. So this growth oriented spending and investment in the sectors like say renewable energy, or it can be the other kinds of energy, natural energy, solar energy, infrastructure, both physical and social infrastructure. Then today digital economy or AI is coming in a bigger way. Artificial intelligence is coming. Artificial intelligence is coming in a bigger way. So that's why tomorrow we must be approaching slowly to artificial and how to utilize the artificial intelligence. And there is a risk also, because artificial intelligence and greater use of it may actually curtail the job of the human being. That may create unemployment. So how AI can be utilized in a productive way, keeping our employment capacity enhancing, that is the biggest challenge for the state government. There is no way out. We had to enter into the computer and internet system, digital economy. Tomorrow we have to enter into the AI economy. AI economy is an inevitable happening of the civic society. It may be India, it may be anywhere, but this is an inevitable development for the society. So we must be going for utilizing this artificial intelligence. So we have to think for that. how to go for the digital economy, how to AI and all these things, renewable energy infrastructure. So growth-oriented spending is obvious and must. And look, I would like to give one particular inputs to you, my friend. Look, our northeastern states are economically backward, industrially non-advanced. But at the same time, what about our research and development expenses? Look, there is a parity, there is a similarity. Our development, our R&D expenses and development expenses, this is almost nil for majority of the northeastern states. This is almost nil for majority. So we are not going by research and development investment, or we are not in a position to do that. But we are entering into the phase of AI, but we are not in a position to go for our research and development expenditure. That's not a good thing. In near future, we have to go for certain investment that may be very priority investment in the field of the research and development. We have to increase it, and that may help the Northeast and the state of the Northeast for their potential development. So we have to think. So growth-oriented spending must be there, and aligning expenditure with sustainable development goals. Different SDGs are there from the UNDP. And this all total 17 people knowing that 17 SDGs are there. And many of the SDGs are actually related to the women development of the children, as well as the development of health, education, environment, and everything, and eradication of poverty. So the sustainable development goals of UNDP, as you know, earlier that was Millennium Development Goal. Now this is sustainable development, and the target year is, our deadline is year 2030, 2030. So by 2030, we would like to reach to that particular. We are to reach to that particular goals, and the goals are set: reducing poverty at that minimum level, and the gender disparity removing in that particular extent, and all these things are there. So if we could align our development, our expenditure, our growth, our expenditure, our expenses of the states into the line of the SDGs goal, that may help a lot. That's the personal view of mine, but that is also can be growth oriented. Similarly, we have to go by the balanced budget. Balanced budget means less amount of fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit has to be reduced, and disciplined fiscal management. Our fiscal management must be very disciplined, and discipline means extravagant expenses must be, or the expenses which are not at all required, or only that kind of expenses which can help in future long-term development through more capital expenditure. So those kind of things can be taken care of, and this is a balanced budget technique. Or we have to focus on revenue surplus states as a model of fiscal health. So some of the states are there which are actually revenue surplus. Revenue surplus means their total revenue minus total revenue receipts minus expenditure, government expenditure. Then they are having the additional revenue in their hands. Their expenses are less than their revenue. So they are revenue surplus states. So how the revenue surplus states are doing, we can follow. Being in Northeast, being in Uttarakhand, being in Jammu and Kashmir, and being in Jammu and Kashmir, though they are Union Territory now. So being in Himachal Pradesh, then we can go for focusing on these particular states which are actually doing under in terms of their surplus generation, all these things. So our balanced budget technique must be followed. And debt sustainability, that means ensuring debt to GDP ratios remain within the permissible thresholds. And thresholds is sometimes 28%, sometimes 30%. And this is given by the Finance Commission to Finance Commission. And this is actually fixed by the central government. Our total amount of debt can never exceed 30% of your GSDP, your state domestic product. So that's the basic thing. And we have to reduce the interest burden. Sometimes for some of the states in India, I'm not going for because this 1.5 hour is not sufficient to give you many inputs, and not sufficient to give you the statistics. That's why I'm not going to say. But I can prove you that some of the states are actually in a very tight situation in terms of repaying only the interest rate. They are not in a position to pay off their capital amount, but they are only in a very tight position whenever they have to they are to pay the interest rate. So interest payment, that budget must be reduced, and to prudent borrowing. So borrowing practices must be very prudent. So that was the thing. Now coming to the parameters, because who will be, and this particular portion, up to what I have explained, these are the very theoretical part. In terms of very small concepts, I have given the theoretical part. Now coming to the a bit technical part, and this is for a advanced learner who are interested or who will be interested in research in future interstate finances. Okay, for them, friends, that look, so different parameters we can develop, like our blood pressure, physical body blood pressure, our body temperature, like the blood sugar level, or many other indicators are there. So these indicators, creatine level, and all these are there, or your HDL or your LDL, all these are there for the human body. Similarly, we could develop some indicators, we could develop some parameters, we could develop some indexing, and nowadays we are going by not only this single parameter sufficient. We are going by the, we are going by what? We are going by the composite kind of indexing. Two of my students, they have worked on public finance under me. Okay, and they got their PhD. So their topic was actually the potential development of the Northeast for one, and another potential development of the special category states. When one has covered all the 11 states, and one gone for the Northeastern states only with some different orientation. Okay, then we have gone for not only the single indicator, but we have gone for developing the composite indicators. Composite indicator. Following the composite formula, I mean that is the just like the multidimensional poverty index. Okay, Alker and Foster. So this multidimensional poverty index kind of thing, we have gone for some multidimensional composite indexing method, because separate indexing. Separate indexing, that separate indexing, that may not be very fruitful sometimes, because whenever you are going by ranking of the states, say one might have a higher blood pressure, another might have higher blood sugar. So whenever sugar and one is lower sugar, one is lower blood pressure, so you cannot directly compare who is in a good position. Then we have to going for a composite kind of thing. So I'm not going to, we should not divert. Come to the revenue health. Then how to go for checking the revenue health of the economy, whether the health is good, health of financial health, definitely here. Financial health of state economy, financial health of state economy, whether this is good or bad in terms of its revenue capacity, and that's all revenue health. Then own tax revenue. What's own tax revenue? We call it OTR. Then VAT, GST, then excise duty, all these are there. Then taking all them together, what is your own tax revenue in terms of your total GSTP, right? Why? Because you have to standardize it. Say we are going for, say Maharashtra might have own tax revenue of say 3,000 crore, and Mizoram is having only 177 crore. Then by looking at the absolute number, we cannot say that Mizoram is much poorer than Maharashtra. Because then we have to make it an indicator. An indicator means the base must be very common. Then denominator, take a very common denominator. Then divide the states individual, the concerned state GST. Then only, sorry, not GSDP. Then only you can say in terms of GSDP, say Maharashtra is having say 10% or 12% or say 28%. Maharashtra is having 28% of its own revenue. Mizoram is having say 32% of its own revenue. Because Mizoram economy is small. As Mizoram's economy is small, so you cannot directly compare by the absolute number, absolute collection. I mean the nominal collection, you cannot go by the nominal collection, go by the real collection. Making it a real indicator, then we have to divide at the numerator, there will be the total own tax revenue for Mizoram. At the denominator, there will be total GSDP, that may be in constant prices, that may be in current prices. If you, this is not very complicated, because if you are going by the current price, you are going by current price for all the states, same thing. If you are going by the real GSDP, you are going by the real GSDP of all the states. So as your denominator is a fixed entity, so there is no problem. Either you can go by the current GSDP, or you can go by the real GDP. But look, we are making this own tax revenue into an indicator by dividing the total collection of own tax revenue divided by the GSDP. Okay, whatever the form of the GSDP. So that's indicator. Now, then only you can rank. Now Manipur is ahead of Mizoram is behind. Only that you can go. Then similarly, we can go for the non-tax revenue. And for all the Indian states and union territories, we can do it. Whenever we are going by the non-tax revenue, for a particular year, you go by taking the figure of the non-tax revenue, then divide it by a fixed or standard new denominator. And denominator can be your real GSDP, or that can be your nominal GSDP, whatever. You go and you do it. And grants and transfer, finance commission grants, then centrally sponsored schemes, then which states are getting higher sponsor. And sometimes, why I'm saying this? Because sometimes we have to go for adjusting. Whenever we are going by the total revenue collection of the states, then how much actually coming from the center, if we go by adjusting that, then real capacity of the states that will come out. Our main target here is to going by the real capacity of the state. This is one thing. The same here is for expenditure quality. Then either you are going for the development of expenditure, I mean health, education, infrastructure, or we are going by the non-development expenditure, salaries, pensions, interest payments, all these are non-developmental. Interest payment is non-developmental, pensions non-developmental, salaries non-developmental. And for certain states of India, pension component even is becoming larger than salary component. Yeah. So that's a very big pressure on the state economy. So I know how to then go for. That's why all this is the debate relating to the pension schemes. Those are coming up. Okay, because pension burden is a bigger burden. And capital versus revenue expenditure. I mean, share of long-term asset creation. Then capital versus revenue. Revenue expenditure is something which are day-to-day expenses, office expenses. We are going by purchasing the table, chair, a computer for the offices and all this. So those will go to the revenue expenditure component. So this is revenue expenditure, and capital road, bridge, canal. These are capital expenditure. So we have to have a comparison between our revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. If our revenue expenditure component is more than one in proportion, say if whenever we are dividing the capital expenditure, whenever you are dividing the capital expenditure by your revenue expenditure, then if you are getting the figure more than one, say it's 1.5. That means capital expenditure is 1.5 times more than your revenue expenditure. So that's a very healthy practice. If the figure of capital expenditure, the ratio of capital expenditure to revenue expenditure, it is 0.75. That means your revenue expenditure, which is non-developmental mostly in nature and non-capital in nature, your revenue expenditure is proportionally higher than your capital expenditure of the state. So that's not a very good practice. So whether particular state is going by a good practice of the state finances or going by a not so good practice of the state finances, so just developing this kind of small indicator. If not, we are going by the composite indicators. By developing very small indicators and very simple kind of indicators, we can analyze the health of the state finances. This is one thing. Say, development expense, non-developmental. Simply go by making a ratio between developmental to non-development expenditure. And if your development to non-development expenditure ratio is less than one, that means your non-development expense component is higher, larger. So that's not very healthy practice. Because paying interest or pension or salaries, those are very committed kind of expenditure. Okay, and committed kind of expenditure, if the committed expenditure more for the states, most of the northeastern states are having higher committed expenditure, and it's very obvious because we don't have any other industries. As we don't have other industries, so casual laborers are not there. Only we are having the employment industry is the government services, right? Tripura is a very small state. It's a so small state, but it's total. Say it's a state of less than 40 lakh people, but its government employees about 2 lakh or more than 2 lakh. So 2 lakh by 40, you go with the percentage. This is much higher than many of the central part states, many of the other Indian states which are outside the northeast. So our salary component burden is a bigger component, but as we don't have any other industry, private investment, private employment opportunities, so that's why all the governments are compelled to offer higher employment to the people. Otherwise, how people will survive? And government has to do it. So, and and among the government employees, our larger part is the teaching component. Teachers are larger in number. But teachers are I should not say teachers are non-productive, but teachers are actually indirectly productive, not directly productive. Because teachers are, whatever the teachers are producing, this is human capital, and that will come into the benefit of the society in a long run. But immediately the teachers are not producing any product or something which will actually boost up the economy at the current period. So that's why our employment is somehow non-productive in nature for the current period, and as well as these are actually pushing larger economic burden and larger current period burden on the economy, and this is a committed burden. That's why non-development expenditure part, if you are going by the ratio of developmental expenditure to non-development expenditure, and you are having this is less than 1, that means non-development expenditure is higher, and that's a very bad indication for the economy. Somehow we have to manage it. So these are the basic things we have to develop. Similarly, the debt sustainability. Then simply go by the debt to GSDP ratio. And that, or sometimes you go by the to measure the repaying capacity. If your GSDP is more in the states, think about 2 states, state 1 and state 2. Then the debt to GSDP ratio for state 1, say this is actually 1.5, and for state 2 this is 2, 1 by 2. So this is 1.5 and 2. Then definitely who is having 2 means the debt is more. 1.5 means the GSDP is more. The particular state which is having a higher GSDP in comparison to the second state, that state is more capable of repaying the repaying capacity of debt. So how much repaying capacity your state has, to judge it, we can go by calculating or developing an indicator which is simply the debt to GSDP ratio. And this debt to GSDP ratio will tell me how much of my what is the total debt burden in comparison to my total GSDP. Say if it is 30% is fine, where 30% is the admissible limit by the central government and by the finance commission. But for all those states which are having more than 30% of the debt to GSDP ratio, they are not in a sustainable position of debt management. So that is debt sustainability. And many other indicators can be developed. 8 to 10 other indicators you can develop, and any standard literature, those will give you. Or otherwise, for this indicator and all these things, I can suggest you one particular reference. This is one particular report you can go by. This is already available in the 15th Finance Commission website and the Government India website. This is the state finances of Tripura, that done by me and my team, the state finances of Tripura, and for there we have developed many of the other indicators, and some of the very mathematical, taking a look at them, all these things, are some of the very other kind of composite indicators we have developed, and the other some comprehensive indicators we have developed. So for detail, this class is not time is not sufficient, so I am just making hurry. And if you are very interested, then you can go by the state evaluation of state finances, that particular report for Tripura for the 15th Finance Commission, which is readily available online. Okay, you can go for it. Then regarding debt sustainability, you can go for debt to GSDP ratio, or we can go for interest payment to revenue receipts. How much revenue the state is earning, and out of that revenue, how much is going for interest payment. Very simple. How much the state is, and that will actually assess the debt burden of the state. If the interest payment is more proportionally higher, whenever we are comparing 2 or more states, then all those states which are having this particular ratio of interest payment to revenue, this is higher, so they are actually paying higher amount of interest every year. So their health is not very good. All those states who are having a lower ratio of interest payment to revenue receipt, they are actually managing their debt in a very sustainable way. So very simple indicator we can develop. Just these are glimpses. In one class, only glimpses that can be provided for. Similarly, fiscal management. I mean, go by the FRBM Act. FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act. Okay, you go by that FRBM Act that has been introduced in 2004-5, and all the it's a very happy news that all the northeastern states, they have gone for adopting this Fiscal Management Act, FRBM Act, starting from 2004-5 to by 2008-9. So northeastern states are actually in terms of the financial management, they are very good, because they are actually, their capacity might be low. The the financial capacity of the northern states might be low, but they are actually in management of the finance, whatever grants they are getting from the central government, whatever they are getting from their own revenue, whatever they are getting, they are managing their finance in a very beautiful way. That's why each and every state has adopted the FRBM Act at the beginning of the jump that has been taken by the central government. Oh, that's a very good thing. So fiscal deficit management as a percentage of GSDP, and most of the northern states are maintaining, it's even for the last 1.5 decades, that I have investigated. For the last 1.5 decade, most of the northeastern states, they could maintain their fiscal deficit to less than 3% of their GSDP. They are within the admissible limit of the provision. So that's a very good thing. And in terms of that, they are maintaining their capacity, but their capacity is low. They have to enhance their capacity. Okay. Or revenue deficit. We can go for revenue deficit as a percentage of GSDP. That also we can go for. Or sometimes we can go, but at the same time, we have to keep in some other consideration into our mind. Yeah, we are talking so many things, development of indicators and all these things, but some good practices are very important for state finances. And each and every state government, they have to comply with the good practices. And what the good practice? Timely budgeting and reporting. Each and every state government should, and the local government also, because now whenever we are talking about the good practices, then good practice only the central government is practicing good. It's not good. It's not overall good. That's only the state government. No, the central government, state government, and both of the local governments. That whatever the district level and the local level, panchayat level, municipality level, all have to. Because so whenever we have done for the finance this report, then we could see one particular thing, and that is very astonishing to me. The majority of the local governments, they are not maintaining their accounts very clearly. And it's the practice, it's the common story for many of the states. Many of the states, the local governments are not maintaining. They are not reporting it in time. Their expenses they are not spending the money in time. Sometimes some of the monies are going back. So these are not the good thing, or they don't have the urge to spend it in time and giving the account settlement in time. So, and they are not going for reporting it very transparently. So transparent reporting, timely management, and timely production of budget, and giving the report to the concerned authority, this is very important, and that will actually impart the healthy practices within the state finances ambit of the state government. Okay. And audit compliance is must. Each and every state and the local governments must go by their audit compliance and financial accountability. Audit compliance, the audit compliance means that timely at the end of the year, they have to submit the audit report and all these things. And even more important than that, this is the financial accountability. The money which is meant for what? Only spend for what? That. Thus, money which is given the timeline must be maintained. The distribution pattern must be in a very prudential way, in a very judicious way. And whether proper monitoring must be there. In many cases, the local governments are failing in terms of their monitoring. Money is disbursed, but the monitoring is not very fruitful, and in monitoring lapses are there. They are screening and scrutiny and investigation are very, very less. That's why the money which are actually distributed at the lower level, sometimes those are not actually spent in a very judicious way and not in a very quality way. How much money they are taking and where they are spending actually, whether spending for the productive purpose or spending for the non-productive, that monitoring system must be developed by each and every state government, particularly whenever they are dealing with the local governments, I mean panchayat and the district level. So that's very important. So these are certain parameters. These are certain parameters. Just a minute. Okay. Now, already we have discussed so many things, and now it's time to wrap up. Okay, just another 5-6 minutes I will go for. We should be knowing clearly about the sources of state revenues in India. For the country as a whole, what are the sources of the state revenues? Say, one is GST, as I told. State GST, major contributor post GST implementation. Now the GST component is the bigger component in our state revenue. This is one thing. And IGST, a part of the IGST component is there. Then the second is excise duty on alcohol and other items. All these narcotic items are there. On that, whatever the excise duty, the state governments are actually earning this. Property taxes for the state government. urban and rural property levies, all these are there. Property taxes is actually this is actually captured, and this is actually this is actually owned by the state government. So so this is there. And vehicle taxes are there, fines are there, some non-taxes elements are there. So those are the basic sources of their own tax revenue. So these are the sources. Own non-tax revenue, what are there? ONTR, own non-tax revenue. So different kind of fees and charges are there for public services. Say electricity, it may be water, it may be sewage system, many other services which are provided by the local government, which are provided by the state government, or even which are provided by the central government. And for all these, certain surcharges might be there, and that can be utilized for the development purposes. Then different kind of royalties are there. And what kind of royalties? These are on minerals and natural resources. So if each and every state government, say ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation of Corporation, then now this is ONGC Tripura. It is in Tripura or it is in Nagaland, then ONGC Nagaland. As the resources are being tapped from Nagaland, so Nagaland must have a particular share. So that share is also, that can be, and that is not under tax. That is a sharing of the total profit or something like that. So this is non-tax revenue. So this is a part of the non-tax revenue for the state government. Different kinds of dividends and profits are there. These are coming mostly from the public sector undertakings. Each and every state government, they are having certain public sector undertakings. If the public sector undertakings are in operation and those are going for business, or they say it may be in a bus corporation, it may be a jute mill, it may be some other, say it may be a fertilizer corporation, something like that. So different public sector undertakings are there in the state governments. And at the end of the year, whatever the total profit or dividend, either profit or dividend, that must be shared with the state government. So this is a non-tax component. So we must be knowing by the components. Central transfer and grants. And here I would like to give one very quick comment, that the central transfer and grants which were there before 2015 and after 2014, certain changes are there. And being academician, you must be going by that changes. We must notice such changes, because it is actually I'm saying the pre-planning commission period and after planning commission, or pre-Niti Aayog and after Niti Aayog. So pre-planning commission, because during the planning commission period, there are certain plan grants. There are certain provisions and there are certain mechanisms, and planning commission was for 5 years. During the Niti Aayog period, Niti Aayog is not the active body. The planning commission was much more active, and Niti Aayog is actually advisory commission, the advisory kind of committee. And the terms of reference for Niti Aayog is 15 years. It's not 5 years. It's a very long term. That's why there are certain structural differences. Certain structural reforms are there in between abolition of the planning commission and the introduction of the Niti Aayog. So being student of economics, particularly being in the Northeast, why I'm saying, because after the introduction of Niti Aayog and abolition of planning commission, then there is a question for the Northeastern states, whether these states are still being regarded as special category states. Because the nomenclature of special category states is not there in Niti Aayog. And the nomenclature is not even mentioned in the 14th and 15th commission. But certain grants which were earlier being given in terms of the planning commission banner, those grants are still continuing. So we are not very worried, because the grants which were given in the name of planning commission, those grants are still continuing. So that's a very good practice. But at the same time, certain grants which are actually plan grants, those are stopped. And Niti Aayog has designed certain different kind of grants and all these things. So that's why this is a very interesting research area. What is happening to the Northeastern states, which were designated special category states with the planning commission. Now they are non-designated special category states after the introduction of the Niti Aayog. Then what kind of, after this structural transformation and structural changes in at the national level, national landscape, then what is happening to the special category states, particularly the states of Northeast, whether the states are benefited or states are getting lost. So I think this is already more than 10 years. Now this is high time. You people who are attending this class and here the faculty member of the Northeast must be going by taking up the research work in this particular area. Yeah, this is whether the Northern states are in a better position or in a very, I mean, in a very negative, some negative impact they are having. So that must be investigated by the academician from the Northeast. So this is the transfer kind of thing, and or the central sponsor scheme also happening. How many central sponsor schemes are there during planning commission? How many central sponsor schemes are there during the Niti Aayog and all these things? And of course, the sources of borrowing and other receipts. Market loan is a common source for all type of governments. Then mall savings, which you, me, and we save. Then a part of that is coming as borrowing and debt to the different governments through the banking management or through the banking system. And public debt is there. This is governmental debt. One government is taking debt from the other government. I mean, the state governments are taking from the central government. So public debt kind of thing are there. And other non-debt capital issues, those are also there. Okay. Now coming to the state revenue, the possibilities and challenges. Yeah. Now we know what are the sources, what are the indicators, what are the parameters of the state finances, health, and all these things. And those are very clear. Now the very thing is that how to have a good health, how to have a good health, and what are the possibilities and what are the challenges. Look, for a particular state, it may be Manipur, it may be Mizoram, it may be Tripura, or it may be West Bengal, or it may be Karnataka, whatever the state. Then certain stimulus are there for revenue generation. What are the stimulus? Economic growth and industrial activity itself is a stimulus. All those states which are having larger industrial base, who are going by larger industrial activities, they are having a higher economic growth and their revenue generation capacity is obviously higher. So this is itself is a very big stimulus, economic growth. Growth is a stimulus. Compliance and tax administration efficiency. Whether you are really going by the administering your tax capacity and administering your tax administration in a very proper way or not. Sometimes the administration is very loose in terms of collection of the non-tax revenues, in terms of collection of the revenue, the states are not actually very careful. So that's a problem. Casual type. Policy measures like tax incentives or exemptions. Sometimes you have to go for certain giving incentives to the taxpayer, or certain exemptions might be given, or timely payment system must be developed. And today tax collection is becoming very easy with the digital economy. Now, sitting in our home, we can pay our taxes. If that digital system be developed properly, even the village people who are going to give a very small amount of tax can give it, upload it, can submit it through the online system through mobile. So mobile utilization of mobile in collection of taxes and dissemination of information of taxes, that can be very helpful for the state government. So state government can going for that. And utilization of natural and human resources. Proper utilization of resources is very, very important. You are having educated people, scientists, but the scientists are not utilized. For the Northeast or for India as a whole, we are having very good scientists, but many of our scientists are actually, they are becoming Nobel laureate after reaching into the foreign country. Because whenever they are hired by the foreign country, they are going there and getting a bigger infrastructure. Then the same Indian brain is doing wonder and bringing Nobel Prize for India, staying there in abroad. So somehow we have to think how to go for utilization of our human resources and proper the solution of unemployment, proper utilization human resources, right man at the right places. This is very important. And tapping the Northeast is having, it's a very common saying that Northeast is having very good amount of natural resources, but these are untapped because the natural resources of Northeast is yet to be reached by the people, by the government, and for utilization for industrial purposes. So our natural resources can be our strength, our human resources can be our strength, our prudent tax administration can be our strength, ease out of tax payment system can be our strength, okay, and timely maintenance and accountability can be our strength. Economic growth and industrial development itself can be a very good booster for the revenue generation of the state and the country. Certain shocks are there. Certain barriers are there in larger tax collection and revenue generation. The first and foremost dependence on the central transfer under certain cases. It's for the Northeast. Whenever we are having heavy reliance on the central government, so somehow if we could utilize them in a very productive manner, that would have been better. If not, then this reliance may impart some sorts of inability in us. So that need to be investigated. Limited tax base in less industrial states. Our tax buoyancy is very low. That's why how to increase your tax buoyancy, that's very, very important. Inefficient collection mechanism, as I told. If your mechanism is not very good and good administered, then it would be very inefficient and your tax collection that would be very less and larger social burden. I mean, non-committed expenditure, social sector expenditure, freebies, those can be a real challenge for the coming days for revenue generation. Okay. Then state expenditure management, I am not repeating now. Say revenue expenditure is there, salary component, the components only given. Capital expenditure, infrastructure development, road development, all these are given. Development expenditure, the components are given here. And non-development expenditure, the components are given here, already discussed, so I'm not repeating. Then state expenditure management, some prioritization must be there. Some efficiency instrument must be injected. Fiscal discipline must be very clear cut. Then sustainable components must be there, and outcome oriented or growth oriented spending must be there, which have already been discussed. And then expenditure management challenges are there, some challenges. High non-development expenditure is a challenge. High level of committed expenditure is a challenge that is actually shrinking the productive capacity of the economy or not giving enhancement to the productive capacity of the economy. So that to be managed. Rising subsidy burden, it's a challenge. And inefficiencies in fund utilization. You have your resource, natural resource, you have your human resource, you have the fund and grants from grants. Then if you are not in a position to utilize, then definitely that's a big challenge for your expenditure management. Then debt management, already I told you how to go for the debt management. We have to go for maintaining certain rates and ratios, and external debt loans from the international institution we can go for. Then we have to maintain this, whatever. Debt optimization, that is in terms of your total GSDP, you have to maintain a certain proportion, and that is your optimization technique. Okay. Or revenue linked borrowing, you are going by borrowing. That borrowing must be spent in productive purposes, capital expenses, all these things, so that in the long run, that helps you in revenue generation. That is called revenue linked borrowing. Okay. Similarly, debt management, this is indicators of debt sustainability. I have here developed certain indicators. Here I have given debt to GSDP, as I explained. This is one indicator. Interest payment to revenue receipts, another indicator. Primary deficit management or primary deficit to total revenue, that can be another indicator. Because whenever we are going by primary deficit, we are incorporating interest payment into that primary deficit. So that's why we can also go by the developing the ratio, taking primary deficit also. Similarly, strategies for debt sustainability, that is, you have to enhance your revenue capacity. The state has to enhance its revenue capacity and have to reduce the dependency on borrowing. Borrowing dependency must be, and any kind of central assistance that must be, that the dependency must be reduced. A reduced dependency can give you capacity. Okay. Maintaining fiscal discipline by limiting fiscal deficit, that is there, and allocating borrowing to productive sector, productive purposes. Already it's getting repetition only. And long-term consideration, I mean, capital expenditure is the only panacea to development. Capital expenditure is the only panacea to development. Already these indicators I have already explained: the own tax revenue to GSDP, own non-tax revenue to GSDP, revenue deficit or revenue surplus, that is an indicator, and per capita revenue also an indicator. Your total revenue divided by your total population, that is per capita. That also can be indicators. So, or the indicators can be expenditure to GSDP, that can be expenditure efficiency, composition of expenditure, who are either good components or bad components, you can analyze, or budget deficit and debt levels, that those can be. Then deficit financing, time will not permit, Vidhu sir, time will not permit, I should stop somewhere. Then just
Okay. Okay, okay, sir, you may stop, no problem.
I can stop.
Yes, it's up to you.
Okay, then 2 to 3 minutes, then I can stop, and then if they have any question, then they have already submitted the question, then I can answer.
Okay.
2 to 3 minutes. Okay. Then deficit financing, its meaning, types, and interpretation. Then deficit financing, FD, that represents how much the government borrows to cover its deficits. I mean, your total revenue minus total expenditure. That will give you the deficit. Okay. So this FD or deficit, that can lead to inflation. And if you have higher deficit financing, I mean, Thus, it's for the state government. The central government can go for printing note. State government cannot go for printing note. So whatever the state government is managing the deficit only by borrowing. So if the borrowing component is becoming larger and larger, so that will lead to local level inflation. That will enhance the total market aggregate demand, and that will lead to inflation and a greater public debt. Okay. Similarly, we should be care of the revenue deficit. A higher revenue deficit that is actually unsustainable and indicates fiscal imbalance. Fiscal deficit, that is deficit financing. Deficit financing is the mechanism, and these are the deficit. Fiscal deficit, a key indicator of government borrowing. A high fiscal deficit increases the debt burden and may signal economic instability. So for the stability of the economy, we must be going by controlling our total fiscal deficit. Similarly, if interest payment is more, interest payment is more, we will have a larger primary deficit, and that is not very desirable. So we have to make a control over the primary deficit of the states, and we have to go by effective revenue deficit. I mean, our total revenue deficit must be within the control and admissible limit. Okay. Certain hyperlinks were there. I'm not going. Then this is the sources of government borrowing. Certain internal borrowing, certain external borrowing sources are there. And among the external, ADB is there, IMF is there, World Bank is there. And among the foreign bonds also be there. And internal, the government bonds, debenture share, those can be the internal components, and certain internal borrowing sources are there. Already I have explained. Okay. Then state government borrowing, and then state level loans are there, which are called SDLs. Then loans from the center, state can go for taking loan from the center. State can go for market borrowing, and public accounts liabilities are there. This is a overdraft kind of thing. Public accounts liabilities. And for debt servicing means how far the state is capable of repaying its debts, or at least paying the interest rate. So this is called debt servicing. And this interest payment or repayment of the principal, so those comes under the debt servicing. And the states which are actually capable of regular interest payment and can pay a part of their principal repayment, so those states are actually in a very good condition. Others are in a bad condition. And already this part is explained. After abolition of the Planning Commission and Niti Aayog, there are certain structural changes, qualitative changes in the state finances. So this is a matter of investigation, and I hope the future researcher will go for investigating that, and that to be from the Northeast. Okay, that. And this is the challenges to the Northeastern states and all this. Then our ultimate goal is to going for enhanced fiscal federalism. That is the total tax capacity, expenditure quality, and long-term sustainability to be maintained for the state finances. So dealing state finances, this is not a very critical kind of thing. That's my final submission. Dealing with the state finances is not a very critical kind of thing, but you have to go for very minute investigation on that. Very small kind of indicators, and indicators and parameters can give you the real picture. But for that, you have to go for studying the different finance commission reports. Till date, 14th Finance Commission, particularly the 1 to 8 Finance Commission, practically there is no change. But from 8 to 15, there has been certain changes in each and every Finance Commission, one Finance Commission to another Finance Commission. So if you are going by studying the Finance Commission reports very minutely and very carefully, then you can have a basic idea how the state finances are run. And at the same time, going by the report of the state finances submitted by each and every state for each and every Finance Commission, starting from the 8th. Those are the references for you. And for the data sources and all this, Reserve Bank of India, RBI data source is a very good data source for this kind of research. Okay, as this is a presentation for the my friends, faculty members, so I am giving this tidbits and all this. Many things remaining, but I am just closing the my part from here. And if you have any question, or if you have submitted any question, then this is a question answer. Vidhu sir, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Salim sir, for your very nice presentation, and very knowledgeable and informative. Okay, so there is only one question, hopefully, okay, by Kuheli Mukhopadhyay. She written, sir, should physical federalism in India be linked to resource federalism to overcome the operational constraint of center-state relation? And is there any proper framework for resource revenue sharing along with transactional revenue sharing that is being currently done?
Yeah. First of all, there is no fixed formula, as I told. But the thing is that in our Indian federal system, then Finance Commission is having the sole authority, and Finance Commission from one commission to another commission under Article 280, they are giving us the guidelines and the formula to the central government for this devolution of funds and all these things. So this is there, that this divisible pool, whatever is there in the central government. So this is actually distributed and evaluated under the able guidance of the Finance Commission, and now the 16th Finance Commission has already been formed. Okay. So this is one thing. And strengthening the fiscal federalism, madam. One thing I can say, if we are going by actually developing the federal relation through the Finance Commission and proper distribution, say 32 to in the 14th Finance Commission, the resource divisible pool for the state government that has increased from 32% to 42%. So that's a very good thing. And now the 42% is reduced to 40% as the Jammu and Kashmir has been recognized as the union territories. So that's why their 2% is reduced. So now this 32% is 40%. Now the thing is that this resource distribution, this must be the flow must be continued, and favorable resource distribution must be there for the states, and particularly for the special category states. That will actually strengthen the Indian federalism. And if this federal structure is strengthened, then automatically the resource mobilization will come. So I don't think that there would be any separate need for resource planning or resource mobilization planning, or that to be linked with the federal structure. Because India is a federation, and from each and every state, we are free to move from other states. So moving from one state to other state is not a big issue. So definitely, whenever there will be resource mobilization and utilization of resources, there would be mobilization of industrialization. Say in the Northeast, only Sikkim is going by heavy industrialization. Other states are not. Why Sikkim is going? Because the Northeastern the pool is there, incentive pool is there from 2007, and Sikkim is very close to the central part. That's why Sikkim could unveil that one, but we are not in a position to tap this. But if this automatically happen, and if focus be given to our federal structure, focus be given to industrial mobilization, focus be given to our proper distribution, and this equitable distribution, definitely. Equitable means not equal. Equitable means who are in more need, they must be given more within certain terms and conditions. Within this time period, we are giving for 3, 4, or 5 years continuously, and you have to make your own backbone strong. And automatically, the resource mobilization part will automatically come, because we are living in a very good federal system. Okay. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Now, our Bartendu sir, that is Dean of the school, is also here. So,
Okay.
Dean sir, would you like to say anything?
No, I will just want to say thanks on behalf of all the participants and on behalf of MMTTC. Thanks for a very good lecture, sir. Very nice lecture, and most of the participants are praising it. So thanks for sparing time, and thanks for joining us, sir. Thank you. Thank you from my side.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Prof Singh, for inviting me. And really nice. It was nice to. Yeah, it's an opportunity to me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Salim sir. So
Okay.
we will definitely invite you in future also in some of our events, and that may be physical.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, I'll be really very happy. Okay, see you.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
Okay. Dear
Okay.
participant, so today we are closing. Please join tomorrow exactly at 10 a.m. First resource person is Devamalla Ghosh, Professor Devamalla Ghosh. So, bye to all today.
And participants, try to submit your PPT by tomorrow night.